But this is really the background that we are, and we can share probably, is this shift from virtual museum that I really don't like this definition, I'm sorry. I think it's sometimes very misunderstood what is virtual, because there are a lot of misconception in what is virtual. Is augmented museum or is just 3D, museum? So I really prefer this concept of an open archive that really recollects all the ideas of this conceptual category, this entity that could really recreate the contents because of this specialization of knowledge. I really like this quote from Ian Chambers. He's a professor in post-colonial studies. He's working with us. I'm from Milano Politecnico, and he's working with us in a project that's called Museum in an Age of Migration. And in that project, he's working about post-colonial museum studies, and he's calling his approach like Museum of Immigrating Modernity. And his concept of museums is really close to the concept of archive. So the idea of something that should be really reinvented. So the archive is not really reconstructing the past in the sense it's retracing, but it's really rewriting the past for Ian Chambers. And then what is very interesting for us is the archival practice is also affected by the content. So we have sometimes no documents to archive, but we have ideas, we have concepts, we have place, we have sounds. And in my case, I have temporary exhibition design processes, so the way you build up an exhibition. So these are something that are very specific in my presentation, the values of cultural temporary exhibition designs. As you may know, there are a lot of temporary exhibitions whose value is more addressing the content of the exhibition itself, but nobody is preserving the design process. And sometimes the exhibition design, I mean, this is the Triennale first exhibition in Milano. It's a very famous drawing about the first concept of this exhibition sketch. It was a temporary exhibition. It's supposed to be held every 3 years. In fact, it was called Triennale. But then in Milano, this institution becomes like a museum of design, and it's held every year. So what we miss, it's really the collaboration between the master, that is a very famous designer sometimes, the collaborators, the realization process, all the drawings that are behind the process. So we developed this project that is basically divided into parts. One is the digital archive structure, so how we organize data. And from the methodological point of view, probably something that we can share is also this way of structure data, this way of visualize, spatialize data and make them visible. It could be maybe useful for some of us to discuss about how we can put these things in a way that people can understand them. In fact, and then there is a very deep understanding about the design process in itself. So how can we figure out how a full, entire exhibition design is created? Then this is, of course, the approach we had. We have an interdisciplinary approach in this project because we use it, of course, design and human sciences, but we also use it semiotics and language science because we use it the way we use semiotics and language science as a proxemic approach, like to understand how the exhibition was displayed by the designer, for instance. And of course, we use also technological science to analyze the digital interact that maybe there are in the exhibition that are going to be lost after one semester, 1 year, or the lasting time of the exhibition. So, and of course, the context we are in, this fragmentation of information, that is something that we can explore if we have this kind of flaneur approach in terms of trying to get content from place and from things, and then we have to put all things together. And what makes sense in this exploration is really the connection. So. Another thing that is important is that when we develop this approach, we try to understand a methodology that could be also replicable for other cultural institutions. For instance, you are a museum and you want to record your own exhibition designs, but you have no resources to do this, or probably you can just put online pictures of your exhibitions. Then we selected many case studies of museums, foundations, archives, libraries, and cultural organizations about this possibility of, for instance, simulating the exhibition online. Like you can interact without manipulating real things, of course, so you can try to reproduce the exhibition. We checked, okay, there's something, I will skip back to that. We checked many examples of cultural institutions who already does this, who already do that. And there are many tools, so many of them have simple digital catalogs, or multimedia atlas or documentary films. But how you can go really in deep, I mean, to understand what is beyond the on-stage of the exhibition design, because what you experience in the virtual tour is just the on-stage, while we wanted to go to bring the visitors to the backstage. Probably our visitor is not a normal visitor, probably is a specialist, probably is a designer that wants really to know about the exhibition design itself. So main goals of our project was to, of course, collect all the information about the exhibition design, find a new model of preservation that is conservative, active approach, trying to design for time. I mean, how can you experience and extend the knowledge of this exhibition in time? But think about it, cannot be an exhibition, it can be some other topic. Sometimes the topic is pretentious for me, and it's more really the concept that is behind this. I want to extend this, and of course many cultural institutions want to extend their contents. And so we try to develop this horizontal experience and then a vertical in-deep knowledge. This is how the archive is a prototype at the moment, so this is how the home page is figured out. When I talk about visualization tools, it's also because we were thinking a lot about how can we make consistent experience path for the visitors in terms of understanding such complex and huge repository of materials we collected, because now we collected more than 200 exhibitions, and for each exhibition you have from the design process to the pictures of the exhibition itself. So it's sketches, 3D models, it's interview with the designer, it's photographs, it's the realization process we documented. Sometimes we used archives of other institutions, so it's a meta-archive, probably. This is a meta-archive of other archives, because some of the exhibitions are not contemporary, so we could not document the realization process anymore. We could just collect, for instance, searching in magazines, the project of the designers. So we made this work on field, on desk research sometimes, some other with field research. We went to the designer and asked the process to the designer. There are 3 different possibilities, so just going very quick is of course, the timeline. So you have each one of these black square is an exhibition at the moment. There is the timeline, then there are other possibilities, that is what we called invariant context. We decide to pre-order the content in some possible way. So there are, I would say, casual links, but there are also specific links that you need to follow to understand something. So, for instance, this is, thank you very much, this is, you have to select one place, and I gave you the example, is the Ilaris Fruttiere Palazzo Te Mantua. It's a very famous location for exhibition design in Italy. And looking at the same place, you can see how the place has been reinterpreted by different exhibition design. Then you go into the information package of the single exhibition, and of course, then there is all the materials divided for format. So this is a probably basic and simple way of categorizing material. Then we wanted to go in deep, so we wanted to analyze really the working process. So how is the exhibition built? So we created also a visual tool to represent all the actors and all the knowledge that has been exchanged during the process. And we after our examination of our in-depth examination, we derived 4 models. And so for each exhibition design, you also can know who is in some way the leader of this process, so who is the more cognitive holder of the more, I would say, the more involved in holding the knowledge. I mean, we divided the knowledge in cognitive, that means all the knowledge related really to exhibition design, and this is here, cognitive. Then there is the collaborative knowledge, I'm sorry for this skip. And then there is the contextual knowledge, because many times the designers are really influenced by the place where they design, so many decisions have been taken just for the place they were putting the exhibition. So these are the configurations, how they work. Then of course we did some field research, so we analyzed it really close, some exhibition. I give you an example. This is an exhibition in Rome that we documented during the process. And what we have done is this horizontal and vertical in-depth examinations. So it's very simple, so I'm not really, I think this is not really the point, but in some way you have this on-stage level and the backstage level. And of course you can follow the exhibition, but then when you want to really go into the details, for instance, for the design phase, you can access to the drawings, to the sketches, to the models, and then to the kind of knowledge that has been used. For instance, I have a very nice story about this. Of course, the design was wrong during the exhibition, so they had to rebuild. And this exhibition was held at the Colosseum in Roma, that you may imagine how many restrictions this place has. So it was not enough to enter into the building. Enough small, so they had to cut and to rebuild, and a lot of other stories that are, of course, related to this contextual knowledge. So this is the last slide I added about the concluding remarks. And I mean, even letting apart this content about exhibition design and temporary exhibition, that is just my specific interest in the moment, but as a general discussion, I really would like to point to this idea of archival practice as a continuous rewriting of data relationship. So this is what we really can focus like a new concept of museums, in my opinion. And also there is this idea that archive is a resource for content creation, experience, and creative recreation. What we can share in at this point is really a methodological approach to visualize and retrieve data via design tools or visual tools. And this could be also helpful for cultural institutions and to store and make more accessible their own digital heritage. And then there is something that is also for me very interesting, is the content dependencies. So our archive is influenced by the content of its stores. So I always like to think about, there is a way back from documents and memories place, and then again from memory place and documents. So what is important is probably in my project I have more documents in terms of drawing, in terms of sketching, than memory and places like your presentation. But they really are intertwined, and we really need to understand how the archive can be shaped to facilitate this this understanding and this capacity to go to the object and to the ephemeral again, and starting from the ephemeral to go to the object, and from the object to go to the ephemeral. And this could be probably one of the links we can share. Thank you very much, and really, again, sorry for my English.